Hi everybody, if you're here, you're probably looking to buy this 56mm f1.2 lens from Fujifilm, and you've probably seen a whole bunch of other videos, so why don't I tell you about it from my point of view? I'm Paul Crouse, I'm a professional photographer based here in Kyoto, Japan. I also do tour guiding, lead photo workshops, and do online travel consulting, and whatever anyone else will pay me. You can learn more about that in the description below. Let's get to the point. You've looked all over the internet. You've probably seen other ones about this. You already know this is an awesome lens. Why is it an awesome lens? Look at the pictures. The pictures that come out of this lens are absolutely magnificent as a portrait lens. This is a wide aperture short telephoto lens. The reason to buy this lens is you get those beautiful bokeh in the background. It's a specialty lens. So if you're a professional portrait photographer, wedding photographer, maybe event photographer, if you're doing low light stuff, this is like an awesome lens. I've been doing photography seriously since 1982. I've owned a bunch of 85mm lenses. This 56mm is an 85mm equivalent. This lens is as good as any of them. Why do you buy this? It's the image quality more than anything else. What can I say? Is there negatives to this lens? This is one of the older lenses in the Fujifilm lineup, and you'll have the same challenges you will with any of the older lenses. The aperturing is a little bit loose. This one's not too bad. It's a little bit wobbly, but that's probably because I've been using it for 6 years and it hasn't had any servicing. Also, the autofocus is a little bit slow because it has the older autofocus system, and you might, because it's a wide aperture lens, you also might get a little fringing, chromatic aberrations in the highlights in the background. If under certain circumstances, that can be corrected in post, or a lot of times I don't really notice it. This is like, we're talking, these are like teeny tiny problems. This is a really, really, really good lens. Now, you got to be careful with f1.2 because you get this razor thin focus. The depth of field is just too narrow. So in this portrait I took of myself using the cell phone app, you can see that my eyeglasses are in focus, but the rest of my head isn't, and it just looks weird. I should have shot this at probably f2.8. Here's a picture of a very lovely couple from Singapore, and this is shot at f5.6. This picture works well because they wanted to be seen with the cherry blossoms in the background. Here's one of my favorite pictures I've taken of this very lovely Hong Kong woman, and this is shot at f2. And it works really well for multiple reasons. Technically wise, at f2, everything, her face is in focus, her hair is in focus, her clothing's in focus, and we get a hint of that, of those cherry blossoms in the background. Here's another shot of her. This is at f1.2, and this is at 5.6. At 1.2, of course, the background just is very plain, which might be very good for certain kind of pictures, but she came in town to have her pictures with the cherry blossom. So I've got both frames, so she can choose which one she likes the best. This is also shot at f2, and this is at 5.6, okay? So keep in mind that f1.2, this super narrow focus, is not necessarily going to give you the best images. Try bracketing your apertures. I typically go from 1.2, 2.8, 5.6. That combination tends to work well. I get to see how the depth of field works. But you try for yourself and see what you like. Now here is a picture of an engagement ring, and it was shot at f4. At f1.2, there would be just not enough in focus and the picture would be unusable. Let me tell you how I use this lens. Kyoto is a very popular international tourist destination. One of my favorite kind of gigs is taking tourists around town and then take pictures of them along the way. I use this lens as part of my 3-lens kit. This is a 14mm f2.8, which is equivalent of 21mm wide-angle lens. I have a 35mm f1.4 lens, is equivalent to a 50. And then the 56 here, which is on the camera, which is equivalent to an 85. Wide, medium, and tight is something I learned in photojournalism as a way to approach a photo shoot. Try to get a wide shot that sort of sets the stage, medium shot to show what's happening, and then a tight shot for details, all right, kind of texture. Why do I use these lenses? Because of the look of these lenses, the images I get out of these lenses, because people can't make these kind of images from their cell phones. And honestly, a lot of my competition, other than of course other photographers, is cell phones. Okay, and a lot of photographers it's really hard to get business nowadays because everybody's got a cell phone, and a lot of times the cell phone cameras nowadays are amazing, but there are images that come off of this lens. You can't replicate that in software yet. They're trying, but this has special sparkle, and that's what you really need to know. How does this lens, the 56, fit into the mix of these three lenses? It's not necessarily my most used lens, but a lot of the keepers will be with the 56. My clients want to be seen in the environment of old Kyoto. That's why they're here. They're on vacation. So I want to show them with that. And so my wide angle lens and my mid-range lens are going to be primary lenses for showing that. All right. But there's a certain time that I usually want to have some sort of clean portrait of each person or the whole family together, or the couple, or whomever I'm photographing. And that's when I'll use the 56. I might also use it at certain times to be a little bit farther away from my clients to get some shots when them doing something, looking at a market or whatever. So what are the other options of this sort of portrait lens? If you're shooting Fujifilm, you have a couple of other choices. You have the 90mm f2. That's an amazing lens. It's longer. So for example, I don't use the 90. It's a beautiful lens. I'd love to have it, but don't have a lot of space here in Japan, so I don't want to be too far away from my client. So the 56 is a good focal length for me. Also, I've used an 85mm lens for years, and I'm very comfortable with it. But I could see for quite a few people, the longer focal length, the narrower field of view can be really good for portraiture, especially if you have places where you don't have the greatest backgrounds. You can kind of blow the backgrounds out and also narrow it. If you watch TV shows, a lot of times they do long shots with long lenses, because then you can control the background much easier than with a wide lens. The other lens you might want to be considering is the 50mm f2 lens, the Fujicrons. That's a beautiful lens. That's like one of my lenses I really, really want to buy. The biggest reason is it's about half the size of this and half the weight and half the price, and still gives excellent images. If you don't have the money for this lens, get the 50mm f2, seriously. Third-party lenses. I would stay away from them if you got the money, and even if you don't, really, if you can, stick with the Fuji lenses themselves, the XF lenses. I would get the 50mm f2 over some third brand, whatever brand, 56mm 1.4. I haven't tested any of those, but I bought lots of third-party lenses before in the past since 1982. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Each time I really wish I had bought the Nikon. Sometimes I just did not have the money. But the thing is, I've learned with all of this is buy the good quality thing and it'll last you a long time. People say things like, wow, you've been using these lenses for so many years, they're so old. It's like, well, duh, you buy good quality stuff and take care of it, it lasts. It's a good investment and it's a good way of using your money. Okay. So if you found this useful at all, please click like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, please write them below. Your comments are actually very helpful to me. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I want to do with the YouTube. I'm going to try to get these videos out faster. I had some personal stuff I had to take care of. Thank you very much. Bye.